We are approaching the 2025 MLB Draft, an event that the Mariners have dominated the past 7 years. Dating back to that 2018 draft, they selected Logan Gilbert in the first round, they selected Cal Raleigh in the third round, they then took George Kirby in the first round of the 2019 draft, Emerson Hancock in the first round of the 2020 draft, Bryce Miller and Bryan in the fourth and sixth rounds of the 2021 draft, Cole Young and Troy Taylor in the 2022 draft in the first and 12th round, Ben Williamson and Logan Evans in the 2023 draft in the second and 12th rounds. And that's just listing the current guys helping out the big league team, not even mentioning the guys that have been traded away to bring in some of the other current guys. The Mariners farm system currently has 9 prospects ranked in the top 100, and they're set to capitalize on this year's draft as they have the number 3 overall selection. They were the big winners of this year's MLB Lottery. They had the 15th best odds of getting the number 1 overall selection, just 0.53% of a chance. They lucked their way up from number 15 all the way up to number 3. And the Mariners have the highest bonus pool of any team this upcoming draft, with over $17 million that they can allocate over their 21 draft selections. The Mariners' top 5 selections come in number 3 overall, number 35, 57, 91, and 122. Today I have on Joe Doyle of the Overslot podcast to talk through the Mariners farm system as a whole, where they currently stand, and where they might be heading in this year's draft. Make sure to check out the Overslot podcast on Patreon for all things MLB prospects. And before we get into it, this podcast is sponsored by Black Label Supplements. They're a third-party tested, athlete-approved supplement company based here in the Pacific Northwest. If you're an athlete, you need to recover properly, check out blacklabelsupplements.com. Use code CouchGM for 15% off your order. And as always, if you or someone you know is thinking of buying, selling, or refinancing on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, or Arizona, I'm actually a full-time mortgage lender when I'm not making these sports videos, and it's my goal to assist as many sports fans and athletes get into the home of their dreams. If you have any questions whatsoever about the home buying process or about refinancing, reach out. I'll have a link in the description of this video to reach out and connect. And with that, let's get into the episode with Joe Doyle. Awesome. Joe Doyle, thanks for coming on, founder of Overslot podcast, talking all things MLB prospects, MILB. Today, focusing on the Seattle Mariners and where they might be heading in this draft. I want to go through kind of 3 layers of prospects. One is the current Mariners rookies that have debuted this year, your thoughts on them. Then we'll get into the Mariners prospects throughout their current system and their production so far this year. We just saw a bunch of promotions recently, and then getting into the Mariners' upcoming draft. So I guess first off, how are things right now? Is this your favorite time of the year?
This is my favorite time of the year. It is the busiest time of the year. I'd say from like June 1st through August 31st, getting through the draft, kind of buckling into the 2026 draft, which is right around the corner. Yeah, I mean, I love how busy and frantic and chaotic this time of year is. So, and everyone seems to have questions about the draft, which I always find to be a lot of fun.
And you mentioned off air that you're going to be heading to various high school scouting combines or tournaments. Is that coming up soon? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so East Coast Pro comes up in 3 weeks. That's in Hoover, Alabama. Then we got area code games in Long Beach, and then we got the Future Star Series main event, which is in Texas. And yeah, I mean, I'm traveling all over the place the next 3 months, just trying to see as many of these 2026 prospects as I can in person, get my own evaluations on them, and then, man, before you know it, the holidays get here and right back to college baseball in 2026. So yeah, this is a good time of year for me for airline miles.
Yeah, there you go. Rack them up while you can. So let's start with the Mariners rookies that have debuted this year, and specifically talking Ben Williamson and Cole Young. I'm just curious to hear your takes on their time in the big league so far. We've seen the upside of Ben Williamson's glove. We've seen Cole Young. He's starting to come around at the plate and in the field. Obviously, it takes some time to adapt to major league pitching. What are your thoughts initially with those two?
Yeah, I think one of the refreshing things about both Williamson and Cole Young is they've been exactly what fans and the team probably wanted them to be. I know the fans and the team is probably looking for a little bit more slug, a little bit more impact from Cole Young. He's been, up now for about a month, but at the end of the day, like, what did you want Ben Williamson to be when he came up? Like, stabilize the third base glove, give you some good defense, maybe run a little bit, put the ball in play, not going to hit for a lot of impact and homers. And that's exactly what he's been. I think it's a position that, you could conceivably look to upgrade, at least for the rest of this year at the trade deadline. But Ben Williamson has been, frankly, exactly what the team wanted. And with Cole Young, it's just good at bat after good at bat after good at bat. He's making contact. He's working long counts. He's not striking out. He's playing solid defense at second base. Like, I feel like as Mariners fans, we've been conditioned over the last 20 years to see a heralded prospect come up and it's just not work. It doesn't take. And these guys have come up and they've done pretty much exactly what you've wanted them to be. They're not stellar prospects. They're not phenoms. They're not, tooled up like Julio or Kelnick or some of these other guys that have been promoted in recent years, but these are steady, solid big leaguers. And for an organization like Seattle that was like craving some stability at the back half of the lineup, I think these guys have done exactly what you want.
Absolutely. Now, talking Ben Williamson. So I had Scott Hunter on to hear about how they found Ben Williamson. And I've been getting a little over my skis on a comparison with him being like the glove is Nolan Arenado, like a perennial gold glover. What comparison would you have to Ben Williamson's upside with the glove, talking about another big leaguer that's somewhat comparable?
Wow, I've never thought to compare Ben Williamson. I will say, I don't know if over your skis is the right term. Like, I think it's fair to, as a fan, especially have hope. Like be excited about what a player could be.
And
I
just seeing
will
the
say,
plays that he's making right out of the
sure,
gate.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest difference between Williamson and some of those guys that you mentioned is the guys that you mentioned do it so smooth. They do it naturally. The way that their body moves, they're always under control. Um, Williamson is a little bit more of a frantic mover, right? Like he's a little bit more. I don't think twitchy is the word, but like his legs can get out from under him at times, and he can. The internal clock isn't quite the same as those perennial Gold Glovers. So I don't know if I really have a comparison. I just think he gets the job done and he's athletic enough and he moves laterally well enough and he's got enough arm strength. And I would say his situational awareness has been pretty stellar this year, just with some of
Mhm.
the kind of weird plays that he's been able to make down the over the course of the last 2 months. So I don't think Williamson is the most naturally gifted defender, but just when it comes to getting the job done, he hardly ever makes mistakes.
And then as far as maybe some arms that have come up, are there any guys that are on the fringe or in the system that you think might be able to make an impact this year? I know Brandon Garcia is a guy that we've assumed would be able to come up at some point this year from the left side in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean Brandon Garcia is probably the guy, right? I mean he touched 100 the other day, and it's from the left side. This team
Sinker.
when sinker, slider, mostly two pitches. I think this team ever since Taylor Saucedo just kind of really struggled to get his footing this year, and he's been a little bit beat up. They've really kind of struggled to find a second lefty, and they've ridden Gabe Spire hard a year after he was struggling mechanically and with some injuries. So I think they would probably like a guy like Brandon Garcia to come up, give them a little bit of flexibility with left-handers out of the bullpen. The other guy that I'm looking forward to seeing is Hunter Cranton. Shoulder
Yeah.
woes have kind of slowed him down. He's going to go right to Everett. If he's back at full strength, wouldn't surprise me at all if he's in Tacoma by the middle of August. And, if he gets a cup of coffee in September because they just need arms, wouldn't shock me at all. The other one, and I don't know if this is, the plan. I should ask around or someone should ask around, but Teddy McGraw's arm health has been such a point of trouble and contention going back to high school. 2 TJs. He's dealt with a flexor strain since. I think he's got like 6 innings at Everett. From this chair, my opinion would be if he's blowing the doors off of guys in Everett, I would just put him up in Tacoma, let him pitch out of the bullpen, and see what you can get out of this guy because a guy with that sort of elbow history, you don't know how many bullets you're going to get out of him. So if the stuff is as big
Right.
as it was in college, just let him throw, let him eat.
Yeah, Hunter Cranton, I'm really excited to see him. He was the closer for Kansas last season, and he has electric stuff. It looks like a special force team. Now, getting into some of the Mariners prospects that were recently promoted, we got Lazaro Montes, Michael Arroyo that have been promoted to Double A Arkansas. Colt Emerson hasn't been promoted yet. He's still at Everett, but there's a lot. The next wave of guys is kind of progressing through the lower minor leagues for the Mariners system so far. What are your thoughts of the Mariners progressing right now? Lazaro Montes is hitting a home run every other day. I mean, I could see him. I could see Colt Emerson at some point next season impacting the big league club.
Yeah, I would think that Colt Emerson is at least on the radar of going up to to Arkansas. But the thing is, like, you have to keep in mind he's not even 20. Like, he's still 19 years old at high A, hitting 270, having a good year, not a great year, starting to tap into a little bit of power. The thing that has blown away me personally in watching Emerson is, I watched that kid from the time he was a sophomore or junior in high school, and he was always a good mover on the dirt, but his athleticism and range at shortstop is really standing out to me. It looks like he's maybe lost 8 to 10 pounds from where he was coming into the 2024 season. He might be down at like 195 now. And I think it's at least giving him a chance to play the shortstop position going forward. He looks more mobile and athletic than Cole Young did. So that has certainly been a surprise. I said this on another podcast with Montez. With where he's at age-wise, that's another guy that is, I mean, how old is Montez? He's still like 21, isn't he? He's still very, very young. 20.
He's not even
still
21.
20. Yeah, he turns 21 after the season, and he's already in Arkansas. So if it was me, I would keep Montez in Arkansas through, May or June of 2026 and really expose him a ton to that quality level of pitching. Because I feel like the one way that you can really break Lázaro Montes, because he's mostly a one-tool player, mostly. I feel like the one way that you can break his prospect sheen is by rushing him. And then there's nothing to fall back on. So, it's an exciting time at the top of the Mariners farm system, and there's a lot of very, very talented prospects. And, by September of 2026, I think you're going to see a massive, massive wave of reinforcements on the way.
What do you think about Michael Arroyo? He's been a standout at second base, and I think surprising some guys.
I personally think Arroyo is going to be a trade chip this July. I mean, if you kind of look at the way that this organization is built out right now, like, you've got Emerson, you've got Cole Young, you've got Ben Williamson. If you like it or you don't, maybe you want a little bit more impact there. And Michael Arroyo is just, maybe if there was an odd guy out, it might be him. I didn't even bring up Felnine Celestin, who maybe is on the radar in late 2027. So dude can just bang though. Michael Arroyo can really, really hit. And it's been cool watching the bat translate a little bit here to Arkansas after, mashing the high A level. Everyone can hit at Funko Field, I think. But it's been kind of cool to see him lift off at Dickie Stevens.
And what do you do with Harry Ford? Do you keep him? Is he a trade chip? I mean, Mitch Garver's contract ends this season, so Harry Ford, he could be the backup starting next year. He was in the dugout in Texas, when Mitch Garver went down. What do you do with Harry Ford?
I mean, I think personally the route is pretty clear. Like, I think you keep him in Tacoma for the next month. You showcase him behind the plate. You showcase the bat in Tacoma, where it's going to be less challenged. He's going to play every day. And I would try, I mean, I wouldn't say that I would try to trade him, but I would lean into the fact that he's your most leverageable trade chip. You can go get a backup catcher on a league minimum in 2026, no problem. Plan B is he is your backup catcher in 2026 and platooning as a DH as a right-handed hitter. And, maybe you get him some reps at first base to see if it makes some sense. But for me, at least, I wouldn't call him up until the trade deadline. But I'll tell you what, man, August 3rd, if, Mitch Garver is struggling and he's not adding too much to the team, I would say it's Harry Ford time in Seattle. I mean, the AAA season ends anyway before the MLB season. So they're going to have an opportunity to call him up and see what he looks like anyways.
And then talking about kind of the state of the Mariners, prospect and system, the farm system, they had their wave of pitching come through. Right now, there's a wave of bats that are working their way up the system. They have a couple extremely high ceiling arms in Durangelo Senja. Ryan Sloan, I think, looks like a future ace. But behind that, they don't have a ton of big names lined up on the pitching side. So I guess moving into the Mariners draft and where you see their farm system, where they might end up going this coming draft, what are your thoughts on where they're at and where they're heading?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I don't know how much starting pitching they have that is immediately, on the way. I still think Senja is probably at least 2 years away. Because he is an interesting development chip. They're not going to be able to rush that type of a talent. Obviously, Ryan Sloan, and I'm with you, man. I think Ryan Sloan looks like he could be a top of the rotation arm. That is one of the most electric 6'4" 225 pound movers I've seen in a minute. It was really hard to come across Ryan Sloan footage um, throughout his high school career. I did see him as a high school junior, and it was good. It wasn't crazy. And then, I mean, he just took a new leap that winter, I guess. Um, yeah, he looks unbelievable. But no, to answer your question, I think it would behoove this team to lean in and grab some starting pitching. I don't know if I would take it at the top of the draft. I would probably lean into it in round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5. They do so well with identifying guys in those rounds that meet and match what they develop well. So if it were me, I'm not personally in the Liam Doyle camp at 3. I'm not personally in the Jamie Arnold camp at 3. If Cade Anderson is there, I would be all over that. But yeah, I would lean into some deeper cuts in the second, third, and fourth round.
So some context, the Mariners, they lucked their way into the number 3 overall pick in this year's draft. I think they had like a 0.53% chance of getting that pick. So they got pick 3, they got pick 35 in the comp A round, they got pick 57 and 122. And I see here that they have the largest bonus pool of any team in 2025 with over $17 million. So, I mean, can you just talk through what that does for their ability to have flexibility if they want to go over slot earlier in the draft to get a high school guy, or if they want, like, how can they move this around?
Yeah, man, it's an important distinction. The Major League Baseball draft isn't about how many picks you have, it's about how much money you have. It's about spending your money and spending your pool to get the most amount of value you can. And so, $17 million, when you have the number 3 pick in the draft, I think the term underslot it's got a hugely negative connotation with fans because it gives off the impression that like you're cheap, right? Well, the number 3 pick in the draft has a value of, I believe, $9 million. The number 4 pick has a value of 8.5. So you can pay the number 3 pick in the draft $8.6 million, save 400,000, and have a very clean argument like, hey, we don't have to pay you $9 million. The next suitor, number 4, their slot value is 8.5, so you're not going to get better than 8.5. But anyways, that's kind of a long-winded way of saying you have 21 picks to find a way to spend $17 million. And I think Seattle is going to do very, very well with cutting a deal at number 3 with the player that they like the most. And then they're probably going to grab an exceptionally talented high school shortstop at 35. It wouldn't surprise me if they grabbed a high school pitcher at 59. And then, as I said, you get into pick 91 and 111 or whatever that is. College pitcher is the route that I would go.
Okay, so 3rd overall, if you were to be putting money on kind of which route they go and the pocket of names that you might be looking at, who would you throw in that range?
Connor, I've been doing this for 6 years and I've never, it's ironic. I more or less knew Harry Ford was going to be the pick in 2021. I more or less knew Colt Emerson and Johnny Farmelo were going to be part of the package in 2023. And I knew that it was going to be one of a couple of guys last year. It seems to me at this point, at the beginning of July, like there are so many different opinions inside of the Mariners, I guess war room, if you want to say, whether it be front office or scouts or player development, like everyone seems to prefer someone different. It depends on who you talk to. Like everyone seems to have a different preference. So the names, I'm telling you, man, there's a lot. Like I don't think Cade Anderson gets past 3. I'd say that. There are people in the department that love Seth Hernandez. There are people in the department that I think would stand for Liam Doyle or Jamie Arnold. There are folks that love Iva Arquette. There's a pretty big contingent that believes that Ike Irish or JoJo Parker should be the pick because they're the best chance to hit at the next level. So, I mean, the draft is in 12 days, and I genuinely believe there's 6 or 7 players still in play for the Seattle Mariners. And I don't even think the Seattle Mariners are going to know who they're going to take until, the morning of July 13th, July 12th. It's crazy.
After the second pick is called.
Truly, no, truly. Like after the Nationals make their pick and after the Angels make their pick, I think that's going to allow the Mariners to like sit in a pocket of two or three players based on who's off the board. And then it might just come down to who gives them the best deal. It's weird, man. You know, there's 8 or 9 players in this class that I would say fit into a similar value projection model. And it just depends on your flavor for risk, whether that be a high school right-hander or a high school hitter or a 6'6" college shortstop. Like it's just a very wonky, unique year.
Is Ethan Holiday the clear-cut 1-1?
Not for me, no. And
Okay.
I actually think Cade Anderson is the 1-1 best bet. If you look at what the Nationals did last year, cutting a huge deal with Seaver King, I think it shows their reluctance to pay the full signing bonus at the top of a draft. And Ethan Holiday is represented by Scott Boras. And as we know, as you know, Scott Boras doesn't cut deals. It's just not his MO. And so I think they feel as though they could get a better deal with a college pitcher. And then they can, like I mentioned, what the Mariners can do with spreading the wealth, they can get some more high profile prospects later down the draft if they elect to take one of these college pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah. Boris is all about like just max value. Like whoever
Yeah.
is going to sign the biggest check, that's who you're going to type thing.
He's totally a
Um,
principal guy. It might not even be like, we believe Ethan Holiday is worth $11 million. It's more of, if you're going to take my client at this pick, you're going to pay him what the pick is worth.
yeah.
They very, very rarely cut deals.
Now, talking about the draft as a whole, a few years ago, we saw a heavy college draft after COVID because there was a big backup in the college system of all of these top prospects. What would you say this draft is? Is it pretty balanced, college to high school? Is there a strength with bats versus arms?
I think it's a decently deep draft. I think 2, 3, 4 rounds in, you're still going to find some pretty good talent. At the top, it's a pretty good year for college pitching. It really is. I mean, Liam Doyle, Jamie Arnold, Cade Anderson, Witherspoon, Bremner. I mean, Gage Wood has made a big jump. I think there are 7 or 8 college arms in this class who could go in the top 20. And then similarly, I think it's a really good year for high school shortstops. And that's something that we couldn't say last year. I've got 9 high school shortstops in my top 20 right now. And that does include Xavier Neyens, Gavin Feen, and Ethan Holiday, who are going to be third basemen, but still, they're high school shortstops right now. They're going to be announced as high school shortstops at the draft. But yeah, man, 8 college pitchers in my top 20, 9 high school shortstops in my top 20. That's certainly where the strength of this draft is. And yeah, if we don't have to talk about college hitters, it wouldn't be too soon.
And then I want to cover a couple local kids. First off, Xavier Neyens, Mount Vernon, Washington, third baseman. He's a left-handed hitter, 6'4", 210. What scouting profile would you give to him?
Unbelievable power. Like unbelievable power. My comp for him for a while has been Pedro Alvarez from the Pirates back when. Now, Alvarez had the first handful of years in his career was exceptional. He played third base. That's kind of what I see in Nines. He's a patient hitter. It's going to be high on base. It's going to be high walks. Really good athlete for his size. He's got to be 6'4", 220. I mean, I know he's listed at 6'4", 205. If he's 6'4", 205, the Mount Vernon equipment manager needs to get new uniforms because there's just no shot. I mean, he's just built like an Olympian. So, yeah, high on base, 70 grade raw power, the chance to hit 35 homers at the next level and play a solid third base. He's, probably the best high school draft prospect to come out of this state. I'm trying to think of the last high school draft prospect to come out of this state that would even. I mean, it's probably Corbin Carroll. So
Wow.
a very obviously very different players, but he's at that level.
And then there's another guy down here closer to me, Cruz Schoolcraft, 6'8", 230, throws 100 from the left side, and then I see that he hits tanks as well. I think he committed to Tennessee. What do you have on Cruz Schoolcraft, and how early would he have to go to maybe sign a contract? And I know that's a tough question, obviously.
It is a tough question, especially in the NIL environment. You never really know
Right.
what's being promised to these players anymore. And as we know, Tennessee, one of those blue bloods with resources to spend. So I do think Cruz needs to go in the top, 36 picks, first round, comp A. After that, it gets a little dicey. But yeah, man, 6'8", like really good mover for 6'8". Like the body control for 6'8" from the left side is crazy at this age. And he actually reclassified. He was supposed to be a 2026 and he moved up because he was like,
Wow.
I'm just
I'm too
so
big.
much
I've got
better. I'm just
yeah.
so much better than everyone here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, I've seen him up to personally, I've seen him up to 97. The split finger is nasty. He's still developing a breaking ball, but as far as like traits that grow on trees, this kid has them, man. He's a unicorn.
He is a tree himself.
He is a tree. Yeah.
And then one other guy, local Slater DeBrune. Is that how you pronounce
hmm
his name? He's a left-handed hitting outfielder. It looks like he's more of a run tool fielding guy. What profile do you put on him?
Yeah, I spent close to a week with Slater de Bruyne. He is a firecracker of a human being. Confident as all hell, knows that he's going to beat the pitcher every single one-on-one, but also humble enough to take his walks in high school league play. That's the one thing about these kids is, you know, you put them on a pedestal their junior year, and then their high school league knows about them, and they don't pitch to them. A lot of these players will chase. They'll try to make things happen. He was fine taking his walks. Had a billion stolen bases, and he's built like a buffalo. I mean, he's like 5'10", 200 pounds, 5'10", 205, like just stacked. So he's a hard worker. He's just a really good kid. I think he profiles into left field as a pro. I think the speed is there. I don't know if the arm strength is going to be befitting of a center fielder, but he can really scoot and he can really hit.
And then keeping it in the Pac-12, Oregon State, 6 overall prospect, shortstop out of Oregon State.
Iva
Yeah,
Arquette.
Iva Arquette. Yeah. How what do you profile him at?
Yeah, I think he's a very real option for Seattle. The one thing that stands out with Arquette for me, I got to see him 3 times this year, and he is such a good shortstop. This may shock some people. I personally believe that if Iva Arquette was inserted into the Mariners system, he would immediately be on par with the defensive value of Felny and Celestin. I think he's that good a glove, which is crazy to say of a guy that's 6'5". His range is unbelievable, and his situational awareness is really, really strong for a shortstop. Actually played at UW for 2 years, 03 and 04, and then he transferred to Oregon State for this last year. But it's huge raw power. He's still growing and still tapping into it. I think the fear with Arquette is going to be when you're 6'5", when you're 200, what is he, 220 pounds, really long arms, really long legs. Will he be able to hit? Will he be able to get his hands inside to velocity? Will he be able to fend off, spin off the zone or off the plate? It's one of the highest profile players in this class if he hits. But man, I think one thing that needs to be mentioned quickly about Arquette, it's hard to find players who are comfortable hitting in the Pacific Northwest. It's cold, it's damp, it's heavy, it's rainy, the air is thick. This guy spent 3 years, 2 at UW and 1 at Oregon State, hitting in this weather. And he also played on the Cape where it was foggy and nasty, and he hit there too. So if you're looking for a guy that isn't phased by the elements and is like a natural Pacific Northwest homegrown talent, I think Ivar Arquette makes as much sense as anybody in this draft.
Love it. Who is your sleeper name in this draft that no one people aren't talking about that is going to go higher than people might think?
How deep do you want me to go?
As deep as you'd like to go. Let's get a deep cut.
A deep cut. Let me see here. I mean, a kid that I really, really like that I think is it could maybe go in the first round. I've got him at number 41 on my board. I'm a huge Cooper Fleming fan. He's a shortstop out of he changed high school, so let me just double check that I get this right. He's a shortstop out of Aliso Niguel High School, 6'3", 190 pounds, kind of wiry like Arquette, but everywhere I've ever seen him hit, he has hit and he's hit and he's hit the ball really hard and he's a good runner and it's a projectable frame. He would be one of those guys that if he's there at 35, I would be over the moon if Seattle landed a player like that. So Seattle is going to be in the market with the amount of money that they have for high school shortstops with their 35th pick and 59th pick. I would at least have him on the short list as of guys that I'd be very excited about.
Awesome. Well, Joe, really excited for the draft coming up, just a couple weeks away. Where can people find you? Where can they find your work?
Yeah, you can find all of my written work at futurestarseries.com. If you're into the draft, we have 2 draft shows a week at patreon.com/overslot. And then, you can find me at Joe Doyle MILB on Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely check out the Overslot podcast. Great information there. Again, Joe, thanks for hopping on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Always fun, Connor. Appreciate it, man.